Hello and welcome to CU150, the show about technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm Tim Montague, your host, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by David Madie. He is a Danish entrepreneur and inventor of an amazing tool called GrowthWheel, which is really a tool for advisors and entrepreneurs to work with early stage and growth stage companies and help entrepreneurs and owners make decisions about their business and their lives. Welcome to the show, David. So pleased to have you here.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm glad to be here.
You know, you and I met a year ago at the ASBDC conference, but then I really didn't get to know GrowthWheel until just a couple of months ago when I went through your certification. I'm now a certified GrowthWheel advisor. Thank you very much. And I've been working with the tool with all of my SBDC clients here at the Champaign County EDC here in Central Illinois. And I have to say, it is a breath of fresh air because before we had GrowthWheel, it was really up to the individual advisor to find tools and methodologies for working and solving problems for entrepreneurs. And GrowthWheel seeds the advisor with this vast resource of ideas, concepts, and just information. And so it's a very structured but flexible approach to working on your business. And so I just wanted to come right out and say thank you for that. It has really been a breath of fresh air. Tell us a little bit about what gave you the idea for GrowthWheel and what inspired you to create a tool for entrepreneurs.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. And I think sometimes if you understand the origin of something, how it was first invented, it's a great way to really understand what things are. And for me, it all started really because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I never really wrote a business plan myself. Me and my partners that I started businesses with just were too busy actually running our business. But then what happened was that one day I was asked to do a training session after having been an entrepreneur for so long, and to actually make a course for 20 entrepreneurs, my very first entrepreneurship course. And because I didn't really know how to teach and what to do, I started teaching them how to write a business plan. But after 10 minutes, there was a guy in the room who asked me, David, did you ever write a business plan yourself? And when I had to say no and got the next obvious question, why are you teaching us this if you didn't write one yourself anyway, I realized that something was wrong. And I had this epiphany, I had this realization that so many entrepreneurs are actually not using business plans. What is true to the way that businesses make decisions and how they work with business advisors is that they talk. They sit with a cup of coffee, they sit with a notepad, and then they go through hundreds of different decisions. So I realized what we got to do is not only to have a long-term strategic plan in a document. We need to make a tool that is true to note-taking, that is true to focusing on small decisions, like should we change our pricing? Should we do marketing in another way? Should we recruit someone, get a new IT system, or things like that? And then I just went about trying to codify and list all the decisions that I had made through years of being an entrepreneur, and a lot of people recognized that were the same decisions that they had. And this is the way we started building GrowthWheel to what it has become today.
What I love about the name GrowthWheel is that it so connects with not reinventing the wheel, because there is so much common between businesses, whether you're making a widget or developing a software platform. Businesses have so much in common, and the wheel really covers 360 degrees. And I'm just going to show for a second what the wheel looks like. I'm going to hold this up. There we go. So the wheel covers 4 quadrants: business concept, organization, customer relations, and operations. And then it divides those each into 5 subsets. So it divides a business into 20 sections. So no matter what an entrepreneur is working on, whether they're working on bringing their product to market or hardening a product, doing customer discovery, figuring out if there's product market fit, or if they're much more developed and they're figuring out how to export their product to new markets, et cetera, et cetera. No matter the stage of the company or the industry, there's something for owners and entrepreneurs in the wheel.
And I think that's another point, Tim, that a realization that I made early on is that the need for getting a 360 perspective. Because there's so many other tools out there, great tools, that focus on sales or focus on the competition, that focus on recruiting or focus on networking and so on. But in the reality, in a company where you have so many things going on, I think the way to make good decisions, qualified decisions, is to have that big picture about everything at the same time. It can be easy to get lost and doing a great piece of work, like making a great website, but maybe there was something else that was just more important. So by having a tool where no matter whether you work with recruiting or with financing or with marketing or branding and so on, that the whole tool is in the same framework, I think that's the way that it becomes doable for entrepreneurs to get the 360 perspective and avoid blind spots. Because when you look around, whether you use GrowthWheel really or any other tool with a 360 perspective, it's about making sure that with your limited resources and your limited time, that you focus strictly on what makes most sense right now, and are able to have that discussion with your mentors, with your advisors, with your management team. So that point of getting the 360 perspective and keeping that as you move forward is another key realization for me, at least.
What really struck me, and looking back, it seems so obvious, but when you made the point in the training about time, we can create money, we can create technology, we can create people, but we cannot create time. And so when entrepreneurs are at critical stages in their development of their company or their idea, if they make missteps and make the wrong decisions or take the wrong actions, if they spend their time doing the wrong things, going down rabbit holes, dead ends, etc., those could be fatally flawed decisions. And that is what I really appreciate about the wheel, is it helps entrepreneurs hone in on what they need most right now.
Yes, and this question about how does one really get to make decisions faster when time is scarce, I think is another thing we have in GrowthWheel is we try to break down these decisions to small posters that we call worksheets, so that every decision, as you know, that you need to make has this framework available, so you have a place to start. And really, that is the alternative to a blank sheet of paper. Many times when entrepreneurs are faced with decisions and they meet business advisors, they may conclude, well, better go home and redesign some new products. Better go home and think about doing marketing in a new way, or networking, or find new client segments. And they go home and they look at a blank sheet of paper. And another part of the work that we've done with GrowthWheel, where we really have not, we've just collected a lot of what is already out there, is to make these simple visual posters. So instead of starting from scratch with a blank sheet of paper, there are alternative lists, there are options. You can quickly get into a conversation because you have these frameworks made available in a visual way, which a lot of people like. Really, GrowthWheel has a lot of information you can find in books, but it just makes a difference when you see it in a visual way, the same way that a lot of entrepreneurs use a whiteboard or a flip chart or post-it notes to create those structures that will help them come up with great decisions. So that's really the work we've done. Structured all this knowledge and all this information that advisors are using every day.
It really is encyclopedic, and that's also one of the things that is amazing about GrowthWheel. This has obviously been something that you have worked on for very long. Tell us about the growth of the wheel. I know that you initially rolled it out in Denmark, your home country, and then how did you get the country's version of SBDC to embrace GrowthWheel?
Yes, I mean, this is another story where I think we are similar to a lot of other companies. We have been using GrowthWheel ourselves. It's in our bones, it's in our genetics, and one of the things that we realized very early is that the way to get our ideas across, as is the case for many businesses, is through networking and by being in the circles where decision makers and people are. So one of the things that we did was we tried to get me on the stage at conferences like the ASBDC conference, America's SBDCs, that has an annual conference every year with I think even 1,500 participants or something like that. And you know, getting to know the people who are the program organizers, pitching the ideas that we would like to promote, showing the reference cases we had from other countries, that brought me, you know, to a workshop so I could face and present an audience. And from there, that just kept going on, and circles went out. So GrowthWheel is today used in 27 states in the US. It's in 25 countries around the world, and we have a total of more than 1,300 certified advisors using it. And I really can say that that has happened mostly through networking, through being at the right places at conferences, from people like yourself recommending the tools to others if they like it. And I think for many businesses that is the way that they will get started and the way they can even grow. We are certainly one example of that way of growing a business.
That's that's amazing that you've made such a footprint now in the U.S. and obviously in Europe. You're in Africa. I think you're in Australia and Asia. Is there any continent, perhaps Antarctica, has yet to discover GrowthWheel?
Well, we are in Greenland, so we're close, I can say. And
Right.
This is also another thing that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs maybe who are listening to this, and I've tried it myself for a number of times. In the beginning, you make the phone calls, you go to the trade shows, you visit your clients, you write the emails. But at some point when you've been doing this for 2 or 3 years, you can be lucky that the tides are changing, and all of a sudden people start calling you. So we are not really a business that has been actively promoting ourselves in all these countries. They have found us, and of course today, through social media and websites and webinars and things like that, Google Hangouts, like we're having today, a message can get around to all over the world. So I think we are just like an example of that phenomenon, that the world has become smaller. And, you know, sometimes we have more in common with our product with someone in Johannesburg than we would have even in a neighborhood in our own home country. People that are like-minded, business advisors from all over the world, actually share some of the same challenges, and they are a community. So once you tap into that kind of community, you can quickly get around. That has been the case for our business, but many of the listeners might see the same for their very own businesses.
So you were a successful entrepreneur, traveling around the world, doing consulting and training, which you're still doing. And you're somebody who could probably live really anywhere in any major city, but you've chosen to call New York your home now. Why have you done that? And was that a business decision or a personal decision, or perhaps both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, it's been a lifelong dream of mine to work and live in the United States. I first got exposed to the U.S. when I sold an internet business to American investors. I happened to start one with partners, one of the first internet businesses in Denmark back in the early 90s, and that was eventually sold to a group of investors from London and Silicon Valley, and I got to the U.S. for the very first time and enjoyed it a lot. So when moving to the U.S., New York was an obvious choice, because as when you still work with Europe, it's quite important to be on the East Coast, simply because of the time difference. I remember in the days I worked from San Francisco, it was pretty hard to schedule a phone call with someone in Europe because of the 9-hour time difference. In New York, the time difference to Copenhagen, where we have a lot of clients still, is only 6 hours, so it's doable. So we looked at the West Coast, and when you come from a small town in Denmark, well, the prospects of going to New York and see if you can make it there is really exciting. So for my wife and I, that was something we would like to try out. We found then that the city is not so scary as you might have thought in advance. So we really enjoy now our little village, our little neighborhood out in Brooklyn, and that's where we gave birth to two children, and we certainly expect to be there, for the time being, and have no other plans than that. So we enjoy that a lot. On the business side, being in New York also makes a little bit of a difference, more so I think around the world than in the US maybe, but around the world, a lot of people find it interesting that we're in New York. It is certainly a part of our brand that we are in Copenhagen and New York. We carry a tradition, a Danish tradition, a Scandinavian tradition of design and simplicity and things like that. And we have also the energy, the pulse, and being part of things that are happening and might maybe even trendy, that we kind of get, sticked on us by being based in New York. So I think it fits well, but really it's also on the personal side a great thing for me and my family to experience.
And that's one of the things that we share in common. It is interesting that you have American children, but you're a Danish immigrant, and your children have the benefit of growing up in both cultures. My children have a Norwegian mother and live in the United States, but have lived also in Norway. And one of the things that Denmark has a reputation for in Norway is for being very business-minded. The Norwegians look up to the Danes as being very successful at business. So you're certainly walking that talk. I wanted to ask you though, I work with a lot of service businesses, whether they're designers or programmers, and one of the things that service consultants, I guess especially, struggle with is productizing their service. And you are a great example of somebody who could have just been a roving consultant, right? Traveling the world, working with companies, diving into their problems, but you chose to create a tool that could then be rolled out for many, many, many other advisors to work with entrepreneurs. Of course, that was a conscious decision. When you made that decision, did you really have this end goal in mind, or tell us about that progression?
Yes, it's an interesting story because I think it applies to a lot of entrepreneurs who have experienced the same. And I can safely say that that our business model, the way we work, is absolutely brilliant. And I can say that because I didn't come up with it myself. Because, like you said, at the time we were a consulting company. We were advising entrepreneurs. We were charging entrepreneurs for coaching and training sessions. And it was actually someone coming from the outside who looked at my business from the outside and said, "David, why don't you change? Why don't you start selling it on a license basis?" It happened to be an SBDC advisor who came from the outside and gave us that great advice of trying to explore the opportunity. Of course, I instantly realized that that was a good idea. I had a little bit of a hard time changing from what we were already doing. But of course, selling things on a license basis is a wonderful model because it's not attached to your time. It's not limited by your time. And if you like to work in a small organization, you can do that. If you're living from selling a service, you'd have to add on more staff to increase your volume and to grow the company. So this idea of getting an idea from the outside, that someone can come and look at your business and even changing, in our case, fundamentals like who your customer segments are, your revenue model and how you charge for your services, and even how you define your product and your very mission, that in our case, in my case, took someone from the outside to see that. And that is one of the wonderful things about America's SBDCs, that you can go in and in most cases get free advice, have consultants like yourself who are not biased, who looks neutrally, who can observe the business and help uncover blind spots, which is what I think a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, needed. So taking that opportunity for anyone listening here to go and see advisors, mentors, someone from the SBDC network or anywhere really, is certainly something you can advise entrepreneurs to do. You just have blind spots, and I do think that everybody needs someone looking at their business from the outside to make sure you get the most of it.
Indeed, that is one of the greatest values of working with a third-party consultant or advisor. David, what is the future of GrowthWheel? You're in 26 states in the U.S. now, and if you're listening to this, you can check out GrowthWheel at growthwheel.com, just like it sounds, growthwheel.com. And but if you're an advisor, how do you get trained in GrowthWheel?
Yes, so our model is very simple. To get hands-on growth, GrowthWheel is today delivered exclusively to business advisors. So business advisors who then work with entrepreneurs that bring it on to them. Business advisors participate in our 2-day certification course. We have 2, sometimes 4 every month around the world. And then they pay a license and they can use the tool unlimited. That's why GrowthWheel is typically free for entrepreneurs. So any entrepreneur listening to this broadcast can find a certified GrowthWheel advisor in their local area and get access to these tools for free. So our model is to work with the advisors, and we make a living from the license fees that these advisors are giving us. The advisors then get the advantage of using the tool. Some of them even charge for packages of materials for course and so on, but in general, it's actually free. So that is the way it works. And as for the future of GrowthWheel, this will keep us busy for a lot of years, for the next couple of years at least. We sign up between 25 and 50 advisors per month, and we still have a long way to go in the US and in a lot of countries. But I will say this, that one vision we have that have come as we have been maturing is to go back and make a direct offering for entrepreneurs. We would do that through our current partners. But advisors like yourself, Tim, may one day benefit from having some kind of platform where you could invite your clients in and they could, by themselves, access the growth material some way, in a different way than being dependent on the advisor. So I think the future for GrowthWheel is that today it's been used by more than 100,000 entrepreneurs around the world, maybe even much more. We don't know, we don't count the actual amount of entrepreneurs using it through our advisors. But if we could somehow have that group access the tool directly with some guidelines, with some videos, with maybe presentations like this one, where we could discuss a particular aspect of the business, after which the users could get access to tools, that is a vision that I have. We just haven't figured out yet exactly how we're going to do it, but we surely want GrowthWheel to be made accessible to as many entrepreneurs as possible.
I completely resonate with that idea and that future. I think it's great to have trained advisors rolling the tool out for their clients, but I do think that finding a way to give the entrepreneurs direct access is also desirable. So I look forward to seeing how that unfolds. Our time is up, David, but thank you so much for joining us. You've been listening to David Madie, the founder of GrowthWheel on CU150, the show about technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm Tim Montague at the Small Business Development Center at Champaign County EDC. Thanks and have a great day.